Midlothian special meeting for April 1st, 2015 to order. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis. Trustee Gilliland. Trustee Kreis.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Mosco.
Here.
Trustee Schiavone.
Here.
Mayor Reddick.
Here.
Have a
Please
quorum.
stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
I believe probably 3-4 weeks ago, I brought up the possible acquisition of the Ida demolition properties that we had the money for. And I had asked for the board's ideas or suggestions as to acquisition.
I forgot to do public comment.
Oh, stop. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just looked down at my notes and went,
And I should have noticed that too, but I was so
I just
sorry.
looked down and saw that I
Okay, so
skipped public comment.
So I'll stop.
Okay, you stop. I will open the floor to public comment at this time. I'm sorry.
Just me? Just me. Okay. We started a big project Sunday. We've been looking into land that is vacant, that has no, they've not been paying their property tax. And so we're looking into that. Mr. Tully is looking into that for land bank opportunities or village acquisition somehow. And we're looking into all the properties that are along the creek. So we started cleaning up the one on Colmar. We had 10 of us out there. And we understand it that until a tree falls in the creek, MWRD won't come and get it. So there's an awful lot waiting to fall. There's rotten stuff that hasn't fallen, and there's an awful lot that came with the flood water that's sitting there. So we did one heck of a job, and Public Works came and picked it up yesterday, and we've been trying to figure out how to recycle some of it because we think that's important too. So we'll probably talk about that a little more when we have the regular board meeting. But for now, Chris and Jamie, they had some ideas. I'll show you some of what Chris has already done after the meeting if you want to see it. But we're recycling the twigs and the branches into things that we can give people that they can use. We're actually going to start making benches and outdoor things out of it. My question there is it possible if we chop up and it's firewood that people can come and take? Is there also, do we have a chipper? Can we make mulch out of any of this for reasons of we can use it on the village green? We could have, people who can come and get it. Is that possible? Because we got a whole lot of trees that are laying down that are partially down that we want to get. That saves people a lot of money if we can mulch it. Is that possible?
We do have a mulcher, or a chipper. We do have a chipper. The problem, I know we had this last year when we did lose a lot of the trees during the bad weather. If they have any type of infection,
Right.
it'll ruin the lawns that you put the mulch on,
Mm-hmm.
even if you chip it up and stuff. So we'd have to be careful of what we mulch to give out to people, so.
Right.
Are you saying, when you say can we mulch it, are you saying can Public Works mulch it?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't play.
Yeah, because until you guys give me a raise, I'm only going to go so far. So.
Well, zero added to zero would be a good raise.
The other thing is, we did ask last week, and we're hoping to expand on that today, and we're still hoping for an answer. We did read last week in a paper about Oak Forest. They're looking for a building superintendent, and they interviewed, I believe it was 14 candidates, and they did, in fact, hire somebody who's a certified building inspector. So we've been discussing this a lot. We're confused as to why we didn't need the former building superintendent to be any more than part-time, and why suddenly now there's talk of replacing another person in a full-time slot. For years, we've had a lot of trouble with permits and things that were allowed to be done, and as I am working on the community rating system paperwork, things just keep standing out to me more and more. A lot of the things that were not done the best way. So people bought into messes and nightmares, and you would think that those things would have been foreseen had we had a building inspector or a building department that was handing out building permits appropriately. So I can use myself as an example again, that area flooded for 30+ years, and they handed out 2 permits to build 2 houses. And then after that construction went up, they handed out the guy next door a permit to build a parking lot, raise it, and put a 6-inch curb to confine it to the construction, which is absurd. One of the people in our group lost their home last summer after $100,000 of damages that occurred in 7 floods. Why was, there's so many of those stories. One of the things Mr. Killedy did bring up when I asked the question, why are we not hiring somebody more qualified? And he said, well, it may very well be that we can't afford somebody. My answer to that is hundreds of people are paying the price of not having a very qualified person calling the shots. So we can't keep, having on-the-job training, and we can't even have the same thinking that went on for the last how many decades with the last building superintendent, because we are paying the price of not paying somebody who has the education, the background, somebody who's the best. So could either Trustee Schiavone or the mayor please comment on that, because this is the second time we're asking.
Since the mayor dismantled the building department, I'll refer to the mayor on this matter.
We have been redoing everything in the building department. One of the things I did notice is that things were not done in a very uniform way, and we have been working on getting it more uniform, making sure the permits are more readily available, plus also being called for, where sometimes it was, well, I knew a lot of my friends used to say, work on Saturdays, no one's watching. And that's true. That's what a lot of people in the village think. So we are still working on it. I actually did contact Oak Forest to get what they put out for their qualifications for what they were looking for, because I knew they were looking for the same person. So I'm trying to put together a job description and the qualifications we're looking for. And then we'll be putting it out also.
Does that include certified?
Mm-hmm. We'll have certifications with it, yes.
And then how are these people actually applying for permits? Because the funny thing is, say you're gonna pour cement. The contractor sets up the forms, this is our experience. The guy comes and he kind of goes, okay, and he walks away. Doesn't look at it so much. Then it's done, he comes back, cool, and he walks away. Is that really what we're looking at? I mean, what's the determination on?
Basically, we don't have a strong inspection process for pouring cement.
But it's anything. It's like an observation. It's almost like a glance is what I'm trying to
If they have
say.
it formed out and they have steel down there, that meets the criteria at this point. We'll come up with stronger criteria, but that's pretty much it. We were discussing it just Tuesday, a meeting with Joe Sperry and Mike Mannypenny. We were discussing what exactly is a cement inspection, what is required, who does it. And the majority of cement inspections are done by Public Works for a number of reasons.
What is Mr. Mannypenny's official title? Is he actually listed and formally treated as building superintendent, or is he just still code enforcer? And I think he had one other role on the board outside.
I don't know what the board outside says.
Okay.
I was actually going to probably ask next week to make him acting superintendent until we can finish the search.
Okay.
Does that involve a raise?
No, it would not.
Then if he's not qualified, why is he gonna be an acting superintendent to call the shots on those same issues?
Just to have that position filled, because more people feel comfortable with having a superintendent and not just a code enforcer while talking to him, and especially now with us coming up on construction season.
Okay, but every time we see somebody go into an active position, he just gets flipped like a pancake into the real slot within a short amount of time. So how is that gonna be handled? Because he's not certified, we know that.
He's got some certifications, I'm just not sure which ones.
Well, I FOIA'd his entire background of education right up to his continuing education unit, so if he hasn't done anything special since January, he doesn't have any.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with him, but, you know, he's never coming in anywhere near my stuff to inspect something without qualifications. And all I'm asking is that the citizens deserve better, because you guys keep asking for more money, and we keep paying people more money, and they're not giving us anything better than what we already have, which is a big mess out there. So if we want to put things better together outside of here, we have to start building better. You can't keep asking people to pay more money when you're not giving us quality work in return. We're still paying for what the blunders were previous to this dearly. So we need you guys to consider that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I had, after the flooding in 2013, I came to the village, my garage heaved and the whole floor cracked. And I came to see the building inspector. And we were trying to figure out what happened to our garage. So I asked the building inspector, you know, what actually would they have done when we built the garage? What, you know, he said, well, you know, not much. I said, well, what do you do when we come to get a permit for the garage? He said, oh, well, all we do is make sure the person who you plan to have build your garage is insured and licensed, so that if they do a bad job, you have recourse. Now, is that true? Does anybody know? I mean, is there any truth to that? And he told me, he says, probably whoever, and of course they don't have those records, they don't save those records. But he said probably the garage company didn't put the right base in. Well,
Well, who inspected it?
yeah.
Hello?
Well, that's not our responsibility. We just have to make sure that they're insured and licensed, so you can take them to court if they didn't build you a good garage. So what's the real story?
That primarily is the real story. The fact is, if in fact, the village cannot stop you from hiring someone. You can hire anybody you want, and that means you can hire a poor vendor. But by asking for a permit and asking for bonding and licensing, at least we have someone to go to and someone for you to go to take your cause to. Otherwise, you're stuck with what you have. That's why I sit up here and the village constantly reminds people, please come and get a permit, so we can at least make sure the people that are doing the work are bonded and have a license. If they are not, and they do a poor job, as possibly did in your case, there is no recourse, unless
So-
you want to fight with them over the phone.
A permit means that you receive an inspection from our inspector, and if he doesn't know what he's looking at, then what good is he? We could just hire whoever we want and get whatever we get, and poof, we're done. What's the point of the inspector? What's the point of the highly paid building inspector if they don't have inspection qualities?
At this point, Helen, that is, the village can only do so much. If in fact the building inspector comes out and the foundation is properly put up and there's proper wire in there, and then the contractor comes and puts in, which had happened in 2 cases, which I'm aware of, puts in a faulty cement mix. The person that is involved in the work does have a recourse. Otherwise, they don't have a recourse.
Well, I know she's using the garage as an example, but, you know, the house is also falling in a hole because of the water problems. And then we go back to the inspection there, which is, why did they give out those permits? And there's a house that's falling in a hole with doors and windows that don't open on one side, which has nothing to do with who we hired, but who, when Mr. Hotwagner built those homes, he was given a permit, he was inspected, everything was authorized, and, you know, so we have 2 separate problems. It's just, you know, it's a little more prevalent than I think you think it is. And so I guess, you know, we just keep going back to that same question, is what's the point of an inspection?
Well, I've answered it as best I can. You have some recourse. If you don't go through the process, you have no recourse other than getting on the phone and fighting with someone.
So we would have to sue the village then for giving the permit to Hotwagner to build the house?
No,
Is that how that
no,
works?
you have a permit, he's licensed and bonded, you go through the bonding company. They bonded him. If there's poor performance to job quality, then the bonding company stands responsible.
No, it wasn't poor performance, because we had to have half of the garage floor chopped up where it cracked and heaved. And I called and I said, you guys need to come over here, because the people who were chopping up the floor showed us where on the right-hand corner, the west corner, the garage base was proper. The rebar was in there, the stone, the sand, but guess what? Where the driveway crosses the street to Trip, that whole side is sinking because they shouldn't have given them a permit to build the house. All the sand was washed out, all the stone was washed out, but in the rest of the garage, it was all there. So it was not the builder.
Wasn't the builder.
Well, that was an engineering issue. The engineer, it was an engineering issue.
You guys
But
gave
the
out a
engineer should not
permit to
allow it.
build buildings where you shouldn't have because it flooded, and the flood water and the under and above ground water movement is taking away everything. So that's where we started, which was we need highly qualified people making those determinations. As we're trying to move up our standing in the community rating system, we are so wrong on so many levels. FEMA doesn't help villages that don't help themselves. That's just the point. Those houses shouldn't have been built. You knew that it flooded for how many years, decades. Who's the one who determines to give out permits? And then who's the inspector that comes along and says, good job? That's the problem. We need more qualified people making those determinations. That's what we're saying.
Well, and Helen, also back when you were talking about this house even being built the first time, there were not the standards we're now imposed with. That has all changed. A lot of.
But that's
codes and things
common
like that have
sense. That's not necessarily just some sort of standard that if you didn't check even a code book, which was pretty inaccessible for quite a few decades.
changed. Correct.
So homeowners that even wanted to go ahead and do their own due diligence to find out, okay, what can I expect out of my contractor? Because I understand the point of having the license and the bonding on file, because it reminds me similar to copyright laws, in that theoretically, if I was to write something original here, I own it. But if you guys take it, I am better off having filed with the Copyright Office and having that certification and saying, excuse me, here's my timestamp, and at least getting that footwork. But yeah, even the idea that so many people over decades, though, and I get it that we won't ever have detailed records on the exact how, but at least even forthcoming, expecting, yes, a superintendent that will sit here and study water tables. Helen mentioned that the Army Corps of Engineers is looking for property to test the water levels. That we'll have a superintendent that'll hold that as the standard, no matter what the law says, though, because that's what we need here,
Right.
relative to whatever those standards are that you're suggesting. That again, I would put to you is not even, it should have never been a law. A lot of it is just use your own eyes and watch the rain. We've lived here for quite a while, some longer than others,
Well,
kind
and
of.
then there's supposedly ordinances that don't allow us to replace all this, erosion, which is absurd because you've allowed the building to continue, but you haven't accommodated that watershed. There's no thought given to this, which is why really we don't have an engineer, a full-time engineer. And to not have at least a very, very qualified building inspector, to me, it's just another outrageous move in the wrong direction, because clearly there's a big problem, and I'm getting a little tired of being told I can't improve my odds, and yet nobody can help themselves, and you guys aren't really giving that consideration, the price tag to us. So don't tell us that you can't afford to hire somebody and expect us to keep financing something we didn't create, because it's your job to protect us.
Thank you, Helen. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board? If not, at this time, I will close it to public comment. And now we'll go on to
And now I'll
trustee
talk
Price.
about the item, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, the acquisition of the demolition properties. I had brought this up a couple weeks ago, and I had asked the board to think about it. Now, just to let you know, the attorney is proceeding with the property on Hello. Keystone. And that they've all of the parties have been served. Did the title search. He asked to do the title search for these two properties. It's gonna cost $125 each, and I want you to know I told him to go ahead and do it. Because it's that step that we have to take, before we can, proceed with the demolitions. But is there any chance that that the board is interested in obtaining title to these two properties?
Title to the Rivera property?
Pardon me?
To the Rivera property?
No, the other two.
Oh, the
The
other
one
two,
on
I'm sorry.
Lawndale and the one on 149th Street.
Are we restricting what we could do with it?
Oh, it's own residential.
No, we could resell it.
We could resell it, correct.
So we would take ownership instead of going to the land bank with it?
That's my question. Don, you probably know more about this than anybody.
Well, I think that part of it is there maintenance issues.
Right, but we
And
have
number
money.
two is there tax issues, because I don't, I think overall that, I don't know if the village would be responsible for taxes, but I think that the land bank is still responsible for taxes. So, I mean, I don't know if there'll be, if we're investigating the whole thing, what are the costs besides maintenance? I don't think because you're a public unit gets you totally out of the whole ballgame as far as paying taxes if you're holding it. You still
Maybe
have-
is that a question for Russ?
We don't have the infrastructure to become real estate brokers.
No, and that was my
Become real estate brokers.
It seems that we already have a method in place here with the land bank. Why are we recreating another?
But the land bank, I'm not sure the land bank would want those properties.
You donate them.
If we donate them, correct?
Donate them, they take it.
If we donate them, they'll take them.
Yeah, then you don't have any maintenance costs either.
Do
Then,
we have to purchase them and to donate them?
You'll have title, won't you?
when we have title, we could donate them to the land bank.
Yeah. Done. You don't have to mow the lawn, you don't have any problem with taxes, and they'll sell it for you.
Just the
It's up-
initial cost though.
Pardon me?
The initial cost
Of what?
of the land.
Right.
Are
No.
we just getting it, or are we trying to condemn it, or what are we trying?
But in that, we have money, we've got the IDA grant. We've had the IDA grant, we have $65,000, we've had that grant for over a year and a half. So we're trying to get the notifications now to deal with them because they have to be demoed.
What are they looking for price wise, or who's the
Well,
bank?
on the one, we have $40,000 in liens, I believe, on the one property. Maybe not 40, maybe 10.
Did you ask about the renewal program from the sheriff? They were looking for another property to demo.
I read that article,
Yes.
so,
And Russ says that they're looking for another property to demo in the south suburbs.
okay, so the
Which would be
board,
no cost to us.
okay, so the board would be interested in acquiring these properties and then donating them to the land bank?
Well,
Yeah.
as opposed to what?
Just demoing them
Then what?
And I'll say,
And us
And-
reselling them.
and
Sitting on-
sitting at, well, what we're trying to do is determine the ownership now. The one is, the owner, it was purchased so long ago, they don't even have, the attorney Gleason was having difficulty even finding the original paperwork when the property was purchased. That's why we've got to pay $125 to do the title search. We don't have to make the decision again
I mean,
tonight.
if we would have, it wouldn't cost us anything to acquire the property, and we had enough liens on it, then I would take the property, donate it to the land bank, because we wouldn't have any issues as far as maintenance, and they would market it just as much as anybody else. That's how they would recover some of their costs.
So I guess it'll probably be, let's wait and see what the attorney comes up with, and then we'll go the next step. But we've got to do this, he's got to be able to see who we need to notify legally as we go through the process before we proceed with the demolitions.
I'm advanced, I think, Don, it's in place, just let it run its course, and then the
Okay.
land bank can then use that money to buy fairly decent homes in town to renovate and stuff.
Right, the issue is for example, if they acquired the vacant land and they made money off of selling the vacant land, and that gives them more leverage to buy other
Right.
vacant homes or remodel vacant homes or whatever, that's what it's
Rehab
all
them.
about, yes.
which they're doing 2 in
I
Midlothian
don't
right
think
now.
either of those homes are candidates for rehab.
Oh, no, they're demolition.
So-
That's why, they're scheduled for demolition, as is the Rivera.
What are you saying?
You don't wanna live there, Alan?
No.
Okay, so I'll keep you informed as the attorney goes through and we find out the ownership, but I wanna start moving on these because we've had this money and we haven't used any of it. I actually would like to read the board a couple emails. And this is from Mr. Dugan, the developer for Right. The first one is on Right Way, and I kind of think I know what the answer's gonna be, but I'm going to read the memo. Hi, Karen. Thanks for all of your help, and we'd like to move forward on our proposal from Right Way. There are 3 elements that we would like in a redevelopment agreement. I assume that the city attorney will use a standard form agreement, which is fairly simple, but here are the 3 elements we would like to see included. 1, right-of-way will be granted by municipal resolution designating the property Class 8 status. The benefit will be for 10 years and renewable. 2, right-of-way also seeks a revenue sharing agreement indicating they will be reimbursed 50% of the village's portion of the sales tax for 5 years, 1/3 for 3 years, and 25% for 2 years. Payable in increments agreeable to the parties. 3, right-of-way shall be permitted to construct a prefabricated office structure at their current location. It is agreed that the structure will be built on a permanent foundation and in accordance with all village requirements. I'm sure the village attorney will also include applicable working relative to the transfer of benefit and statutory requirements. We look forward to seeing the agreement. So how would you like me to respond to Mr. Dugan?
That was their RDA?
That was what they would like in the RDA.
Tell them Santa Claus is coming too.
Well, I thought that we had discussed before, if they were not going to put up a brand new building, we can't stop them from the prefabricated larger building, but that would be it. There would be
Have you
no,
reached out to any other community and found out what they do with businesses such as this? Have you talked to anyone else?
about one specific.
Well, renewing Class 8s and
They
revenue sharing.
typically, I actually talked to the mayor of Crestwood, and they typically don't see any benefit in renewing Class 8s. And I have to call Ivan Bakery in Tinley. And he said, well, they're asking for a Class 8, but I don't know, they're not building, they're not building.
Yeah, but, you know, on the car dealerships, for example, in 159th, but basically what Tinley did was say, here's what you're making right now, we'll share a percentage of
Right.
the increase. We're not gonna share a dollar for dollar on the base, we're gonna say, okay, you're making 100,000 now, well, we'll share that maybe 50-50 or whatever for 5 years or something like that, and then nobody does a Class 8 tax sharing at the same time, no possible way. And this might only be contingent on how nice a building they put up. You know, if they just put a prefab one, well, I don't know. It doesn't thrill me.
Nor me. I mean, originally they talked about putting up a new building, and now all of a sudden they
Right.
want to move this prefab from Saginaw, Michigan. So I need to respond, I just need to know how to respond.
I'm of the opinion that the county's part of a Class 8.
They are.
also,
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're not too keen on giving second time around.
It's not.
This isn't the
Right,
second
oh, yes,
time.
it
This
is.
is, no, this would be the first time on this one.
Okay.
But I need to respond to them. They want this prefabricated building, which I have the
But I'd
picture.
like to take and they didn't, so I'd like to take on their website, one of their buildings, which is just not a real big brick building, but it's a nice looking brick building in the front, and, I'd like to show them that and say, you wanna do this, maybe we'll talk. But I don't see any big thing about a prefab building that would just increase their business or make them look better or improve the look of their property, improve the neighborhood. I don't see any of that, and that's how we should judge it.
Class 8 is designed to spur economic development, and I
If
don't
they're
see-
doing a rehab,
I don't see any spur there.
nor do I, they just want to put this up. So,
It's not going, it's a trailer,
correct.
okay,
So,
prefab.
Prefab trailer.
Alan?
I'm not in favor.
Okay, so,
I consider one or the other, maybe both, if they were putting up a new building, permanent building.
okay, so what I'm hearing is we can't, they could put up their this building, as long as they follow the village's codes, but the village is not going to consider either a Class 8 or any type of revenue sharing unless there was new construction. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I will respond to them. If they decide to put up a new building, then we can talk about an incentive.
They could bring 2 of those trailer halves, I'm sure the plumbing is already there, because they have a building there, and they could bring 2 halves in and do it, say, see, we have it, and then 2 months, 3 months down the road, the 2 halves disappear for a shed
Okay, I will respond
In
until.
a day.
in a day.
I will tell them that if this is it, if they're gonna do this, that the board is not going to consider a Class 8 or a tax sharing, but if they wanna put a new permanent structure, the board would be interested in discussion. The other email that I received, another one from him, he was working with S&M Auto, and he has indicated that he is willing to acquire the Chrysler store and make all the necessary renovations. If the village is determined that the sale of this property is feasible, we would like to move forward on securing an agreement. I understand that whatever is going to be required to make this deal happen is meeting a redevelopment agreement, we are fine with that. I had told him that there was an offer on the Dodge and the Chrysler, and the village has countered. So my feelings are, but I want everybody's, is that I would tell them we would like to develop both properties simultaneously with one end user, and if something happens, then maybe we would consider that, but right now, I don't see the benefit if we're negotiating with somebody who wants both Dodge and Chrysler. Thoughts?
Since you already started the process with the one group, don't we have to give them time to?
Right, I mean, and the attorneys, I believe, put together the redevelopment agreement.
They really can't move on to something else, or still
So I should just tell them
deal
that.
with something out, right? That,
We have an active offer on first.
right,
On both properties.
right.
Okay, so I will respond that way, okay? Then, I just wanted to share, well, we're having our first rain ready meeting on April 25th. And every day we get emails from Harriet, but, and it might be a little premature, but I do want everyone to know how hard she is working on Midlothian's behalf. And got an email, was this Monday maybe? I don't know, I get so many of them. Burrell and I met, this roll call, met with Vince Davis, who heads up emergency management for all of Walgreens. He's asked us to submit a proposal for using Midlothian Walgreens as a high visibility demo site for bioswales / permeable paving, paid for by Walgreens. I'm going to work on that this week. Shout if you have any ideas, concerns about this, which my response to her was, if they can make this happen, it would be a great prototype. I think from all the pictures she sent us, I think it would be a great prototype, and it uses green infrastructure, which we're trying to promote. She also said that they met with Intel, Schneider, Sprint, and Janus RC about Rain Ready Alert. MWRD and the Corps were also on the phone. We're moving forward slowly with the development of the alert and hope to pilot it in the autumn. So, although you might not see anything happening, there's a whole lot of work that Harriet and Burrell are doing behind the scenes, and it's almost every day. So, and I think as we have our first Rain Ready kickoff meeting, this is going to be exciting, in all the things you're doing with cleaning the creek. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Can
Also-
I just mention that if that's the case, and then I tell you to see community rating, because that's what we were just talking about. You know, you get points
For these types of
for
things,
those
yes.
type of alerts. If we can have sort of an automatic alert or some such thing, that maybe that's what they're talking about, we're gonna get pretty boatload of points for
We
that.
get points for warnings, we get points for educating, and we're gonna get points for these community projects that we're trying to do.
When you say warning, you get points for warning.
Probably the
Well,
alerts,
for
right?
instance, we have the, there's an app available for Apple phones, for instance, that can be tied in. I still don't understand the one on Midlothian Creek, but we'll be able to tie into that new USGS sensor that we have on Natalie Creek on 149th. And so that's one way of people get, and when it overbanks, we will get actually a call. We have our code 911. It would be nice if we could somehow tie that into knowing when the overbank occurs, because you know, that message needs to get out. That's another question. Somebody removed me from the list. I was on it. I'm not getting those anymore, but we get points for that.
If it's somehow automatic, we get much more points.
Yeah, well, because it's preparedness, and that's the whole point of this, is making us more prepared, building smart, avoiding the obvious. Lots of points.
Karen, did you say the Rain Ready meeting was on April 25th?
Right.
That's a Saturday. Now my notes.
It's Thursday, 23rd.
I'm sorry.
My calendar
I have
says
too many meetings.
4/16. My calendar says Thursday, 4/16.
Oh, that is, I'm sorry, it is the 16th.
The
Okay.
third
The
week.
third Thursday,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
9:30, right?
Okay,
at 9:30.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay. Just wanted you to know we were paying attention.
I'm glad. You get an A, okay? There is a meeting on Friday, Calumet Stormwater Collaborative. I'm gonna try to attend that meeting. That's Josh Ellis's group, and I'm gonna try to attend that meeting. Also, Helen had brought up, I think it was the last meeting, was Jeff Posa, our engineer, going to charge us to attend Rain Ready. I sent him an email, and he said he volunteered, and he will not charge the village to attend our Rain Ready steering committee. So I thought that was, thank Jeff for that. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Shivoni?
Yes, I only have one item. The zoning board met on Monday at 6 o'clock to consider the two matters report with the rezoning of both a location at 4600 West, 147th Street. That matter was, that was a request for a church. That matter, I guess, was tabled, but for lack of sufficient information, the board wasn't ready to make a determination based on the information they had. There were a lot of questions. So they reached out both to the building department and the fire department for additional information. And the other meeting was regarding Cicero Avenue there around 148th Street, around 149th to Keating. And the minutes from that meeting should be forthcoming. And that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Gillis could not be here this evening. I would like to offer the board sympathy for the loss of his brother, Brooks Wayne. It was very sudden, and he really didn't have any updates for me to report on, so. Trustee LaRue.
Yes, ma'am. Community Policing Committee is having a monthly meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the police department roll call room. I'll report on that next week. It appears that our Easter egg hunt is all set to go. We have tons and tons of eggs, thanks to everyone. So I'll report on that next week, on the success, the huge success that it was, I'm sure. And of course, switching gears now is almost May, which means it's our Community Policing Committee / DARE golf outing, which is May 9th, Saturday, May 9th at Fountain Hills. So I'm in desperate need of golfers and hole sponsors. So I'll be pushing that for the next month. $50 to golf and $50 for a hole sponsor. Cheap event, goes to a good cause, and it's fun. So I'll be pushing that. That's all I have.
Okay, Trustee Gillis.
Okay, got a lot of things to talk about, try to make it simple. First thing I want to talk about is the Midlothian tour. You know, I guess we just had the same experience as far as the looking at the creek, and it was very educational, super educational, just to see, and also just to see what Midlothian is doing to try to do what they can. But I also came away with the conviction we don't have to wait for some of these other governments to get off their duff and do some things. We can do some things ourselves. We can't do the whole problem. We can't do engineering. We can't do a lot of it. But I think we can find ways to suck up some of that water and make sure it doesn't go upstream, downstream, whatever we're gonna do, you know? And we talked a lot about that on Sunday, and just kicking some ideas back and forth without knowing everything about it. But I do think, you know, we talked about a lot of things, and I don't know, you know, honestly, how much farther along we are from a long time ago, because, you know, a long time ago we used to hear about the same things. Well, they're studying it, there's planning, there's this. You know, the proof is in the pudding, and I don't know where we are with that. So I think we have to do what we can ourselves to try to alleviate some of the situations. Certainly having an advocacy group like Midlothian is just a big plus that we didn't have before, so that's good. That's why we're getting all this attention, but the attention's also got to translate into action. And I don't know, you know, I don't know where we are with that, you know. But it was very, very educational to see exactly what was going on. That was, seeing it in person was just really brought it home. Something totally unrelated, potential developments. This is just a comment off the wall, but you know, going through our town, we have a lot of successful businesses who have spent a lot of money in their business, and through spending a lot of money, good management, and good business sense, they've done very well. You look at Walgreens, which is one of the top Walgreens in the area. You look at Hardee's, which is the number 2 Hardee's in the region. You look at Burkhart's, which is the number 2 Burkhart's in their chain. They spent what, $5 million on the darn thing. You look at Hog Wild, which little by little they saved, you know, and got more business, and then they spent more. It's a great thing. Bartolini's, you know, things like Cars 147, which spent quite a lot of money on their property, and also kept a promise, which I think we should actually recognize. They took the tanks out more than other businesses. A promise, they kept their promise, and pretty quickly.
In a timely fashion, they sure did.
They and really over what we expected, I think, you know.
Well, we originally asked for them to be out by the first of the year, and they pushed it out over a year, but they accomplished it within that time frame. They did have it.
So I
before the
mean,
first of the year.
that's something, that type of business, you know, maybe we don't want to talk about Aura, but Aura is doing gangbusters from the license fees. They spent a lot of money on Midlothian. You know, my point is that if the business spends a decent buck and has the right management and of course the business model, they can make, we have plenty of businesses, there's many more that I could mention. We have plenty of businesses that make a lot of money. And my point is that we are looking at future developments in a lot of different areas, and I don't think we have to accept everything that's just going to throw money at us right now, because if we just accept something that's, we want to look at the big picture, because we don't want anything to take anything now that's going to impede future economic development. So I think when we're looking at it, we should look at the money. We also have to look at what our friend from South Holland, their economic development coordinator told me was, look at jobs. Are they bringing more jobs to the town? Because more jobs means more retail development. Are they making the property look better? Or are they just leaving it the same and just walking in and turning the key? And are they making the neighborhood look better? If you can, and that's what, for South Holland, I think some more towns, that's what they judge the yay or nay of the economic, is that economic program, economic development proposal going to pass? And I think we should look the same. I think we just, you know, we deserve businesses that are going to improve our town, not just in a money fashion, but also in appearance fashion. And, you know, when people look at Midlothian, they have a positive feeling about the town. And I think we deserve, sometimes I think we're short selling what we are, because we have a lot of businesses that have done very, very well in Midlothian, and that spent a lot of money without any tax breaks, without anything else, and they've done super well. So that's my stupid comment for today. The CRS, I'm probably repeating everything Helen said, but we had the CRS meeting, and you want to talk about 2 people who were on fire, Helen and Kathy Cavani. They're just awesome. You know, I'm just sitting here with my mouth open pretty much. But I think the one thing I can't, trying to reemphasize, I think what Helen already told you is that we actually do have a flood mitigation plan already in place. We passed it apparently with, you know, with some other Cook County stuff. So that's a big thing. But, you know, what we're talking about is, some of the issues we're talking about is keeping, you know, what Helen already talked about is making the building superintendent, in my mind, a flood control advocate, a person who has a lot of certifications and really, one of the main things he watches out for in any redevelopment or development of the Midlothian, watches out how it will affect the floodability of the properties. That's a big thing. We were talking about what can we do to put the elevation factor into our permits. So, you know, why do we not consider elevations that, you know, she was using the example of one property that we gave a permit to, and it, you know, made it the other properties much more floodable. And that isn't anywhere on our permit radar, and it should be. And, you know, what can we do to require elevation information, and that should be definitely one of the issues when we issue a permit for some substantial renovation or maybe a new building. And I asked Jeff Koza today, does any towns issue a permit for landscaping? Because the pitch of the landscaping, whatever you do, and whatever you put dirt in and so on and so forth, definitely affects the floodability of adjacent properties, not just adjacent properties. He said he can't see anybody, doesn't know of anybody who does it, but he thinks he should. He thinks that, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. Those are all things that, you know, when we look at the building code, we have to adjust the building code to make it for flood control. Probably the flood mitigation plan doesn't address it. It's pretty general. You know, it doesn't do the nuts and bolts of this. But one of the things that Helen did talk about that you heard was making sure the building superintendent and the building department is very flood aware, and making sure that other people down the line don't pay for things that we shouldn't have issued permits for and then are paying for later as far as flooding. The CRS, if we don't have to do a flood mitigation plan, I think we can get this going quickly. I can see why we can't get this going pretty quickly. We talked about doing a basic plan to start out with, and then adding on each year, because we have to be re-inspected, recertified each year, and each year we can make it a little bit better to get a better rating and more discounts for the homeowner. So I'm very optimistic about the community rating system. I think we can, I was reading the manual, and the manual is very, very definitive. One thing we talked about was that we would get a better rating if we cleared out properties, some properties that were, we had less properties in the flood zone, we would get a credit for CRS. Plus, we probably get less flooding. But that just ties into some other things that we were talking about, these properties that we wanted to try to break the cycle of buying it and then foreclosing. And, you know, some of those properties we think were flooding properties. So the more we're talking about this, the land bank, I was talking to them about it, and Russ was going over some ideas, and he was talking about that if we had properties that flooded, and there were continual flooding properties, that we should talk to the bank that can't be making any money off this cycle as it is, and get them to donate that to the land bank. The land bank then would be interested in demoing the properties, getting those crummy properties out, getting a credit for CRS from doing it, and you know, I was just thinking about, the more we talk about this, the more there's different ways. One thing I forgot, which is we inspect all vacant properties when they become vacant. Now, why don't we add part of that inspection to looking for signs of flooding? You know, if you have water damage in the basement, or, you know, you have something, water lying on the wall, something like that, that should factor in a lot of these foreclosed properties, which we have to inspect. We could probably get some pretty good information off them. Also on CRS, there's a category for repetitive flooding properties that they've had to pay a lot of money out, I guess, for. And that's, we can get that information, and those, we should put those properties on the list. We have a map of flooding, what properties have flooded over the past, I guess, 20 years, so we can look at that. And we can also do look at the property records and see which properties are high turnover properties that possibly can be targeted for that type of thing. And the biggest problem with this is a lot of properties that are foreclosed aren't bought. The people that have bought them don't see face to face, they see them online. So we maybe will have to advertise that, you know, if you want more property records, if you want more information on your property, go to the Village of Midlothian. And I would even say we could put one of, I don't want to say, donate some of our political sign hardware, and we can actually put little signs on the front of the property to say, you know, this property, I don't know what you want to say. For more information, talk to the Village of Midlothian, or do you want to say something about this property has been sold and, you know, 3 times within the past 5 years? For more information, talk to the Village of Midlothian. Anything we can do, or do something online, anything we can do, I think will reduce the number of properties that go through this cycle. And I think we'll have a lot more information on it, and eventually the banks, if we talk to enough banks, I think they'll get the idea that maybe it's just better to donate them and get them demoed, and eliminating a lot of those properties. I think the one over by, which I guess is occupied, right?
Yeah.
Again, as I was walking by there today, it's occupied again.
It's renting.
It's rented. Well, I think we have to do this for renters too. I mean, if this property has had problems, I think the renters should know that. And it is it is a state law that you have to disclose any material defect or material situation with the property. The real estate agent has to disclose that if the owner knows, the owner has to disclose if the property has flooded. It's not just leaked, it's flooded. You know, it doesn't, you know, if it leaks to the property, okay, but and they have to disclose that, but it also, if it's just flooded, they have to disclose that. So we have a lot of bullets in our seat, in our holster to make this work. So all this is working together. CRS, the land bank, Flood Midlothian's helped, and I think if we get the program together of working on these, some of these foreclosed homes and putting a few on our list that we want to work on, try to, you know, little by little get them off the bad list. And I think, good grief.
Mr. Cully, can I just say
Yeah.
one thing? Because just maybe to make it more clear to all of us, some of these properties, and as we showed Trustee Moskal today, there's a lot of vacant land that taxes haven't been, we went far more south than we went with you.
Okay.
And they're on the list. And so if we could acquire a lot of this land for almost nothing and clean it up, which is what we're already starting to do, and have these native plantings that can suck water and get the trash out of there that just clogs our culverts. I mean, you know, I know you all think I'm nuts. I'm talking to the president about this one day. I will get there. I am not joking. I mean, we are changing laws. This is not, you know, when communities start having these struggles and you hold yourself to higher standards and you see these groups like we are doing come together to help each other, people want to come here. They want to live here. They want to be a part of this. And they're going to want to come when maybe the value is a little lower because they can see that we're on the rise. I mean, I see this as a huge opportunity for us to start looking at that land, and why aren't we giving those people tickets for not managing that land? I mean, the amount of garbage we saw today was like mind-blowing. So not only are they either not paying taxes, but they're not even managing the property. So if my grass can't get 6 inches tall, why can they use these properties as dumpsters? It's just flabbergasted me. So thank you.
You know, if we could do it on a different process, a no cash bid process, in order for a town to get it, they have to have a immediate use for it. You know, so you can't just stockpile the property. You have to have a development plan in order for the county to approve the no cash bid. So, you know, the issue is wood flooding, flood control.
Cleaning it up for detention.
Right.
Natural
Would
detention.
would that possibly be it? And I think, you know, the bottom line is, I think, in order for this to happen, you're gonna have, somebody's gonna have to talk to the county and say, hey, this property, we can use it for, sort of retention and detention, sort of like what MWRD wants us to. Put detention in there with the swales and the plants that will suck up water. I don't know if they'll approve that right now, but you know, the bottom line is we had some properties that were, that you could see that we could do this with. I think the village should make a no cash bid on it and see what the county would say. And if they don't approve it, then we have to do some more, I don't know, you're much better lobbying than we are, but somebody has to do some lobbying with them and saying, hey, look, we can do this. It's not a formal plan, it's not done, it's not engineered, we're not changing the height of anything or so on and so forth, but we are using it as detention. And something that MWRD has told us to do for new developments. So, you know, I'd like to take a flyer on some of those properties that you talked about and see if we can, if they are on the no cash bid list, that maybe we can cooperate with them and see what happens. Yes, you start there, maybe they'll say yes, maybe they'll say no. We don't know unless we try.
Is it possible for the village to acquire those properties by means of what you're saying and contribute it into the project planning? You know, MWRD keeps talking about we don't know where this cash is gonna fall out of the sky. Can we acquire property?
In other words, if
It's our
MWRD would say
contribution.
that's a property we would use.
And they won't buy it.
There would be a development plan.
Yeah,
You'd have to get MWRD to say, well, we want it, and it won't, and not sit on their hands and say, well, it's gonna cost too much for detention.
And could that count towards our contribution of
Right.
the total project cost?
right.
Yes.
That's
I mean,
what
I know
I'm
we only
looking
saw
at.
preliminary plans at the rate limiting meeting, but if we were to say, oh, look, we've been able to acquire these 2 or 3 or 4
Right.
parcels, are these in the plans now for the project, or if they're not, could they be worked in because they're in the area? Would that count, you know, kind of as part of, you know, with grant work, there's usually some portion that's required from the village. That would be a good way for us to economically come up with the value.
Right.
If we can obtain it for no cash bid, but that property has a value of, you know,
Right.
a significant number,
Right.
can we apply that towards a contribution from the village towards the project?
And in that case, aren't there other grant opportunities possibly that can help to facilitate, like the pocket parks or the things we were talking about when we find these? Because there's a lot more than we thought. There's a lot more vacant land that tax has not been paid off, that's loaded with trash, that we were just shocked.
But are they Midlothian or Oak
Probably
Both. Both. And that should be factored in, because our project is starting in Oak Forest at 153rd and Laverne. So, you know, we all have something to contribute.
I make that project more economically viable.
Right.
I think it's a big issue. And that's enough on me for today.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Musil?
Can I comment on Don's remark? I'm very glad that Don said that about we're underselling Midlothian, and we are. And just to make a point that recently happened, the one place you left out was Palomino, who
Oh, I'm
just
sorry, yeah, definitely.
was just the 4th restaurant to be regionally recognized, along with 2 of them that are nationally recognized. I mean, Tinley Park doesn't have 2 restaurants that have been regionally recognized, let alone 4. I mean, this is fantastic, and we shouldn't undersell Midlothian. We should promote it as much as possible, because there are some big things for it. But, yeah.
Raise our sight, I want to raise our sights a little bit.
Yes. Thank you.
Trustee Musil, sorry.
Yes, just 2 things. To continue a little bit on Don's comments about his flood tour, I had my own today, and it was a great experience. I was able to travel not very far from my own front door and see some things that I had never seen in the last 14 years. Amazingly, the size of what's the right term, is it the outfall of the water that we get in Midlothian from Oak Forest?
The aftermath,
He could
it's still there.
play chicken and walk through that tunnel underneath Cicero Avenue. So the size of what comes at us versus where it goes to is crazy. I also, we were able to tour some other spots as well today and see some of the work that was done last Sunday, which was great. I had been by there the week previously, and it looks like a completely different place in some of those locations on Colmar. The location we were at today, I was able to look up how on the Sidwell map, it is one specific parcel
The whole chunk.
owned by one person. And I tried to print it out before the meeting, but I was not hooked up to the right printer, so I will get that to you. And then also to Don, because that's potentially
Is it Midlothian?
the site. It has a mailing address in Oak Forest, but I want to actually get the bill, which I think Trustee Christ can help me with.
Yes, I can.
My understanding from living there is that that's actually unincorporated for county,
Okay.
that particular parcel. The gentleman who owns it has a mailing address in Oak Forest, in incorporated Oak Forest, but there's 2 years of unpaid taxes on it. And it's about, the county tax site only lists square footage. It was about 111,000 square feet, which according to the calculator I found was about 2.6 acres, so it's a fairly decent size. There's a lot of trash there that we saw today, but it's in the right spot, I think, to be considered to be helpful. So I'll get that information to you and to Don. And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up was regarding the informational mailing we have going out for the referendum. That was it was certainly a combined effort by a lot of people in the village here to get that out. Trustee Christ did a lot of the groundwork on the facts and the information that are in the mailer. Nicole did a great job taking a Word document that I doctored up as a letter and turned into a nice trifold. And I know, Mayor, you saw yesterday, I think the effort, it was all hands on deck to get that out. So hopefully residents will receive that tomorrow. But I'll be thanking the staff when I get a chance to see them this week.
Do we know, I didn't get a chance to stop in today. Barry and I were helping stuff and yesterday. Did they go out? The ones that were?
A majority of them all went out before 6 o'clock last night,
Okay.
and then the rest of them went out this
Okay.
morning. So-
And I know it's on the website as well.
Mhm.
There's also on the
Frequently
website.
asked questions, so that was a group effort.
Yeah.
I heard, and down piggyback on what you said, and I heard, and I don't know how much validity there is, but the county, especially on the south end down here, is getting ready to ask the municipalities to absorb the unincorporated properties that are around, because there's so many problems. I hate to put more work on Coach Barry's docket, but maybe we should be ahead of the game and know exactly where these properties are, so in case it does come to fruition, we can actually jump ahead and find out which ones we want to bring in the Midlothian, and then start the process when they give the green light on it, so.
I'm 95% sure the one we were on today is unincorporated.
Well, there's a number, but there are pockets, that's the problem, there are pockets, and we spoke about that last week, I believe. But there are pockets, but we need to address them and find out where they're at, so we know for sure.
And actually, what Kathy Caveney did, she did all that research, so she just really did a ton of research, so we've got a starting point. She's got the list, so it's a starting point.
That's that 2.6 acres, you get a lot of damage for that.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to my residence business. I would be looking for the approval of the resolution for a new checking account with CNB Bank for the new TIF deposits. This is coming from the new TIF that was just started up. Prior to now, we hadn't received any monies from the county, and now they have money for us, and they need to be able to deposit it. And a checking account was never set up when you guys got the TIF in the first place, so we need to pass a resolution to open up this new checking account.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Present.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
Motion passes.
At the end of the meeting last week, I provided you guys each with a new policy on the reporting of fatalities and hospitalization to the Illinois Department of Labor. We have to do this. This is one step in our compliance with the IDOL report. and I'd be looking for a motion to approve the new policy on reporting of accidents.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Trustee Schwanning.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I'd be looking for also the approval to Deputy Chief Mager's vehicle 2718 for the repair of the lights and the antennas that are rusting through, and going with the low bid from Custom 77 of $1,678.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
So make a comment. I know it's been said before by some of the previous board, older, is that the wrong thing to say? Older board members, the veteran board members.
Thank you.
The fire department does a lot of its own work on its own cars, and I happened to walk by there yesterday, and Deputy Chief Palmer was out there changing out the kingpin. Something that personally I wouldn't even, that's why they have mechanics across the street. It's just, it amazes me how much work they put in. All the departments do, I know, but I happened to walk by the department yesterday and see Deputy Chief Palmer out there working on it, so.
Saved us a lot of money.
A lot.
You're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Schwanning.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the ordinance for the sale of village property. This is for the Mako breathing air cascade that the fire department no longer needs, and it's just taking up space down at Firehouse 2. We'd like to get rid of it, and we need the ordinance to do so.
The what? Oh, the breathing.
Yeah, the breathing air cascade.
Did I read in here somewhere about removal of police equipment from the,
I
is it
see.
something else?
Not on this one, no.
This is just for that,
The breathing air.
breathing.
It's the old air cascade we had before we got our new air packs. The old one won't put the 5,500 pounds of pressure we need in our new bottles. So we got a new compressor when we got the new air packs. So it just sits down there and collects space. We actually have, Ecuador wants it.
I'll make that motion there.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion?
Dave, do you have any idea how much we can anticipate for this?
I asked for 5,000, they offered me 4, I said, okay,
Okay.
And it's just sitting there.
just sitting there.
Karen was hoping for $1 million.
I was.
Every little 5,000 helps, or 4,000. I have a first and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Schwanning.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
The last order of business I have is I would like to read a proclamation. Next Wednesday, one of our residents who is battling cancer is going to have his lifelong wish from Make-A-Wish Foundation fulfilled here in the village. He said he always wanted to grow up and be a policeman and a firefighter. So he is going to be spending a good part of next Wednesday, late in the afternoon, here at Village Hall. And to that end, I would like to proclaim next Wednesday Albert Davis Day. And the proclamation reads, whereas Albert Davis is a 12-year-old resident and resident of the Village of Midlothian, County of Cook, State of Illinois, and whereas Albert Davis is currently battling a life-threatening illness while exhibiting courage, strength, and grace, which serves as a proud example to all our residents, and whereas Albert Davis's perseverance and positivity in the face of his challenge stands as a reminder to all of us that, as Eleanor Roosevelt once said, life is what you make of it, always has been, always will be. And whereas the village president and the board of trustees would like to honor and memorialize Albert Davis's strength and courage by declaring April 8, 2015 as Albert Davis Day in the Village of Midlothian. Now therefore, I, Sharon Ryback, President of the Village of Midlothian, do hereby proclaim April 8th, 2015 to be Albert Davis Day in the village of Midlothian, and I urge every citizen to take this time to remember and honor the courage and commitment of children like Albert Davis to fight each day in order to enjoy the many blessings of life that many of us take for granted. So proclaimed. And that's all I have this evening.
They're also taking them to escorting to the store this weekend, Saturday.
Saturday, I believe,
Best
yeah.
Buy, yeah.
You guys go to Best
Best
Buy.
Buy's taking them shopping. So
Very cool.
we will make it a nice day for him. We'll go on to Clerk Colstead. Any correspondence?
I have nothing at this point.
Okay. With nothing else to come before the board this evening, at 8:11, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I will make the motion.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion adjourned.